All right, everybody, Teching 101 here, and I'm sorry to say it has now been 1 week since Halloween, which sucks, but there's one last vestige of the holiday season left, and that is today's the last day you could get the Vampire Berry plushie. It's just like, I know I've been on and on about it, but today is the last day. Probably not forever, but for the foreseeable future, today is the last day. Thanks to everybody who's purchased one already, but today is it. And then they're gone, so check out the link down there to Spring. There's links up here as well on the end screen. There's a link. There's links all over. But, yes, so Vampire Barry will be going into his coffin to slumber in the future. All right. So, we've gotten a lot of information in the past week in the One Piece world, even despite the fact there's been no chapter, all right? We had an SBS. We had SBS 110, where we found out a bunch of interesting stuff involving Isho and Aramaki's backstory. Turns out Fujitora used to be a war criminal. Weird, right? So we're going to tackle that stuff at another point. But we also had the 10 questions that Oda answered in a special interview. And, bunch of different questions, some more important than others. The one that most people seem to focus on, and the one that had the longest explanation by Oda, was question 9, which tackled the Rocky Port incident. And rather unfortunate, because Oda opened it up by saying, yeah, I'm probably not going to tackle the Rocky Port incident in the story. That disappointed a lot of people. That was the general reaction that I experienced. A lot of people are asking for a Rocky Port OVA, or even one of the movies. I don't think one of the movies is going to be based on this, because, I don't know, like, even when it comes to stuff in the SBS, usually turning that whole thing into a movie hasn't usually happened. But maybe it could, who knows. It would sort of like be, you know how in Wano a lot of people were disappointed that Zoro's family tree was all revealed in an SBS? I mean, I would love, like, One Piece movie, the story of Zoro, and then it goes through, Arashi, his father, and Terra, his mother, and all the way back to his mother from Wano, grandmother that came from Wano and everything like that, and Kozaburo was there, and Kuino was there. Maybe we find out about Tashigi in the background, you know what I mean? I would love a movie like that, and, it was revealed in an SBS, so why not? But, like, it's probably not going to happen, but, who knows? Maybe there might be a side story or something at some point. Some kind of like One Piece Gaiden, the Rocky Port incident, who knows? But yeah, no, Oda expounded upon it a little bit. Like, honestly, we have more questions than answers if you're just asking me. It's one of those things where Oda, I guess, if he had like an entire like light novel to explain the Rocky Port incident, it would have maybe made more sense. But from what we got, this is the way it went. Okay, we knew about the Rocky Port before. It was mentioned several times. We knew that Kobe was involved. This is where he gets the title of the hero, and he saved a bunch of civilians during the Rocky Port incident. And like, okay, the Rocky Port incident involved Kobe saving a bunch of civilians. Also, I don't know if it was stated, but this was probably the incident where he was promoted to captain. Kobe jumped a lot of ranks very quickly. Now, granted, he was being trained by Garp, you know what I mean? So you're going to have a little bit of, there's going to be a quick run through the ranks if you're being trained by Garp the Fist, also a hero of the Marines, coincidentally. I wonder if there's some parallels here that Oda's trying to do between Garp and Kobe. I don't know. Maybe. There might be something there. But at any rate, yeah, I could see Kobe saving a bunch of civilians there, maybe when he was like a lieutenant or a warrant officer or something, and they just immediately make him a captain afterwards. Actually, I could see them promoting Kobe to like, all right, Kobe, you will now be, a Commodore. And Kobe's like, no, I don't want to be a Commodore. I'm not good enough for that. Just make me a captain. Like, okay, we'll make you a captain. It's just like, there he goes. So we knew that. We knew Law was involved. This was the incident that helped Law become a member of the Seven Warlords of the Sea. There was also because it was mentioned that he did the 100 hearts. He gouged out the hearts of 100 pirates, which sounds a lot more metal than it really was. Remember, Law has room and shambles and surgical knife, and he could just like rip people's hearts out without actually killing them. In fact, the pirates that had their hearts ripped out, their hearts ripped out by Law, He's just he's just a heartbreaker, ladies and gentlemen. They're still alive. They're still alive on Hachinosu. Like Blackbeard mentioned it, right? He's like, yeah, the pirates that you ripped their hearts out, they're still here on the island. They're very upset. Would rather like their hearts back, right? So that happened, but the Rocky Port incident set up for how he was able to get the hearts of all those pirates on Hachinosu and then deliver them to the Marines, which is how he became a warlord, okay? It was kind of the Rocky Port incident and then Law showing up on their doorstep with a crate full of hearts that was like, oh, yeah, all right, job application accepted. We'll call you for the follow-up interview. It's just a formality. You have the position. And Law's like, okay. And then we have Blackbeard. Blackbeard was also involved in all this. Blackbeard was like, okay, Pirate Island. He's currently the boss of Pirate Island. Like when Kobe and Blackbeard met at Amazon Lily, Blackbeard mentioned, it's like, oh, Captain Kobe, last time we met, it was at the Rocky Port incident. It was because of that I was able to oust Wang Ji and become the boss of Pirate Island. So I have a lot to thank about you, He's like, thanks, man. I really appreciate that, right? So Blackbeard was also involved. So it was more of like, and then Wang was involved. I want to see Wang. Can we just see Wang already? Oh, man. One Piece movie, what are we up to, like 15? One Piece movie 15. Wang. Just 4 letters. That's all I need. Okay, so little bit more of information about this on the setup, exactly why all these characters ended up at the Pirate Island and what was the incident that involved the Rocky Port. Okay, so the Rocky Port was not an actual port. I know, already throwing a wrench in the works, right? Okay. The Rocky Port was the name of a ship. All right. Now, I actually went back and checked this because I could have sworn back during when Sword was attacking Hachinosu, there was a line from Avalo Pizarro because they were talking about getting rid of the Marines. And they're like, well, why don't we just like use the island fruit to just destroy them? Why doesn't Vasco Shot just burn down the town to kill all the Marines? And they were saying, yeah, we probably shouldn't do that because Teach will be really pissed when we destroy the island. We only just finished, repairing all the damage from the Rocky Port incident. I think it was a translation thing because I remember the first translation of that chapter being like, we just fixed up the Rocky Port. Like the Rocky Port was an actual port on Hachinosu. That wasn't the case. He was saying that like, hey, there was the Rocky Port incident. There was a lot of damage from that incident. We just finished fixing all that shit. We shouldn't destroy the island again. Teach will get pissed at us, so let's figure out a way to get rid of them without doing that, okay? So I just wanted to clarify that really quickly. So the Rocky Port was the name of a ship. Now, it was originally set up as a passenger ship, like a cruise ship. Remember way back in like episode 1 of One Piece in the anime where there's just a cruise ship and then that pirates attack and, Nami was on the cruise ship? That wasn't in the manga, but like that's like a cruise ship. And then like the Orbit was a cruise ship where Sanji learned how to be a chef. That was a cruise ship. We don't see a lot of them in the One Piece world, but they exist. It would be rather terrifying, to take a cruise in the One Piece world, especially on the Grand Line. It would be like, oh, no, thank you. I mean, like, hey, we have, great buffets. We have a pool. I'm like, yeah, no, but it's the Grand Line. There's literal pirates that could destroy the world. You do know that, right? Magical powers exist in this world. It's like, yeah, but look at these rates. It's just like, okay, I guess. So the Rocky Port was ostensibly on the surface a cruise ship. However, turns out it actually wasn't. The kingdom, we don't know the kingdom exactly, but whichever kingdom that owned this cruise ship was actually doing secret dealings with Hachinosu. All right, so, Hachinosu led at the time by Wang Ji, or Ochoku, who was a member of Rox's crew. Remember, Pirate Island originally was controlled by Rox. Rox might have even been the one to build it. We don't exactly know. He might have been the one responsible for having that giant skull mountain. We know the Davy Back fight originates from Hachinosu. Whether or not Hachinosu existed before Rox's time or Rox founded it, it's kind of up in the air. But Rox controlled it. Then, God Valley incident occurred. Rox purportedly dies. The crew is scattered. Whitebeard, Big Mom, Kaido, they all go off and do their own thing. Kaido gets captured by the government. Big Mom just makes her own crew. Whitebeard makes his own crew. Shiki floats up to the moon or some shit. I'm not really sure. Well, he eventually gets thrown in Impel Down and then gets out, and it's a whole thing. Anyway, so crew scatters. Wang stays on Hachinosu. Maybe there might have been a power struggle there. Maybe Silver Axe and Wang and Captain John all fought to see who would control Hachinosu. It would make sense that Whitebeard didn't really care about Hachinosu. He's like, I don't really give a shit about this. I just want my family. This place has nothing but bad memories for me because we all fought all the time. So Whitebeard went off, made his own family, whatever. But yeah, there might have been a power struggle there for a little bit, but eventually it was Wang Ji, understandably, obviously, that won out and was taken over the island. Okay, so Wang controlled it for a pretty good chunk. I mean, Wang was in control of Hachinosu before the events of, the time skip. 2 years ago, Wang was in control, 100%. All right, so, there is a story, though, that, and this is the big one. This is probably the biggest thing in this whole message that Oda talked about, the Rocky Port incident. There was a special poneglyph that was apparently on this island. On Hachinosu, on Fulalead. There was a poneglyph there. Law heard about this. Now, Law is interested in the poneglyphs, obviously, because of the name, Trafalgar D. Walter Law. He has a D in his name. It's like a hidden thing that he's not supposed to tell anybody. And Corazon apparently told him that, you're the enemy of gods. And Corazon died for Law. And so Law is sort of like, and Sengoku even talked about this a little bit with him. It's just like, the reason Corazon loved you was not because, some, name or birthright or something like that. Stop trying to look into it too much. Just accept the fact that he cared about you. You know what I mean? He died so you could live. That's the point of that. But Law is still searching for an answer. He's still searching for, I need to figure out what is going on here. I need to know what the Will of D is. I need to know what these poneglyphs mean. And he heard that there was a special poneglyph on Hachinosu. So he's like, okay, I'm going to hijack this passenger ship that's actually not a passenger ship. It's actually a smuggling vessel for this kingdom that's dealing with Hachinosu and making maybe arms deals with Wang or something like that. Who knows? We don't know the name of the kingdom. And actually, I don't even know if Law knew it was a smuggling vessel. He might have. He was flying the same nation's flag and involved in dealings with Pirate Island, which led to major trouble, as you can imagine. I really want to know at least. We're probably going to find out more information about this as we go. I don't think when Oda said that I'm not going to depict this in the main story, he didn't mean the Rocky Port's never going to be mentioned again in the main story. I think it will be. This kingdom that was dealing with Hachinosu, that will probably be revealed at some point. But in terms of Oda sitting down and drawing out the entire Rocky Port incident, I think he just meant that we're not going to see this in the canon of the manga. Maybe there could be an anime thing, maybe there could be a special, maybe there could be maybe even a movie, who knows, maybe another, a side story manga somebody else might draw, like I said, maybe something like that, maybe a light novel, but not in the main canon, okay? I hope it would be, maybe. I mean, this is not the only time Oda has said, yeah, maybe something's not going to show up in the story, and it does eventually, so who knows? But we'll find out about that. So we don't exactly know, and this is the part that's confusing, we don't know what the deal with the poneglyph was, and we also don't know the deal with, how everybody sort of ended up on this island, but we can make some inferences, I suppose. So let's talk about the poneglyph first, and then we'll try to figure out where everybody, comes together on this, because I'm assuming Blackbeard was also, interested in the poneglyph as well. Kobe was just interested in saving people, right? But of course. Okay, so important poneglyph. It doesn't say road poneglyph, it doesn't say Rio poneglyph, it just says, important poneglyph, or special, unique poneglyph. Okay, so I don't think it could be a road poneglyph. Pretty sure that's off the table, because all the road poneglyphs are accounted for. One is at the whale tree on Zou, which is ironically the one that most people don't have. Blackbeard's crew, good luck trying to get that thing, you know what I mean? That's the first one the Straw Hats ended up getting, but for most people, it's we don't actually know where that is. I mean, unless there's a mink on somebody's crew, and then the mink obviously could tell them, oh yeah, we have a road poneglyph, we have a red poneglyph in our country, but even most minks that live on Zou are not privy to that information to go into the whale tree and see it. It's kind of like a sacred place, right? So it's ironic that that's the first one the Straw Hats ended up finding. One that was controlled by Kaido, one that was controlled by Big Mom. Big Mom's had hers for decades, well before the time of even when Roger was making his final journey. Big Mom had a road poneglyph there, so that one is well and truly accounted for. The one that Kaido has had been in Wano for hundreds and hundreds of years, ever since the Void Century, right? And then you only have the one that the man marked by flames purportedly has. You know, the one that was originally on the ocean floor at Fishman Island, but that was moved at some point. Now the man marked by flames. Okay, so none of these were mentioned to be on Hachinosu. The only thing is that fourth one. I mean, like maybe somebody took it off of Fishman Island and then ended up on Hachinosu at some point. Because remember, pirates were ravaging Fishman Island for a while. Maybe. And then it ended up there, and then somebody took it and then left. You know, it's possible, but Blackbeard would probably be privy to all this information because he now controls the island. You know, maybe the man marked by flames is Wang the entire time. No, probably not Wang, although, you know, I'm just trying to find some avenue, some route to getting Wang Ji into the story properly, okay? He's not dead. He's not dead. Don't even say that he's dead, all right? So, I don't think it can be a road poneglyph. It just doesn't add up, okay? Rio poneglyph, though, that's different, okay? Because there's 9 of those, all right? I was also thinking, remember how we learned in Whole Cake Island from Tamago that there were 30 poneglyphs? We got that handy-dandy little chart when Tamago was talking about everything. He's like, yes, monsieur, there are 30 poneglyphs in the world, right? 4 of them are road poneglyphs or load poneglyphs, and then 9 of them are Rio poneglyphs. Rio poneglyphs. Real poneglyphs. Real? Maybe. Make a note for that later. Okay, so then we have 17 that are just poneglyphs that, you know, contain information maybe on a local history or something like that. The one that's the apology letter down on Fishman Island that still is there, I'm thinking that wasn't a Rio poneglyph, or obviously not a road poneglyph. That one might have just been one of the 17 poneglyphs that just has something else written on it, right? Something like that. How do we know there's 30, though? Now, Big Mom's information gathering network, keep in mind, is the best in the world. It was mentioned multiple times. Maybe the world government's is a little better because they have Cypherpole and everything. But like Big Mom's information network in terms of pirates is like the best in the world. So them finding out that there's 30 poneglyphs that exist, I could understand that. But some of them have been lost and have been lost for a while. Like the one that was at the bottom of the ocean that Jinbei hauled up and eventually gifted to Big Mom. And that one has been down there for quite some time since the world flooded, I would assume. So how do you know? How do you have a set number of how many of these exist? You know what I mean? Unless you found a poneglyph that says there's this many poneglyphs. It really is like in a video game where you're searching for stuff and it's like the first little collectible you get is like, there are 29 more of these across the world. Find them. And it's like, okay. You know, all right. We'll search under every corner and everything like that. There you go. Okay. All right. So maybe there is a 31st poneglyph. What about the one buried in Alabasta that was totally not in the anime only? What about that one, huh? That one actually could still exist in the canon. We're probably not going to see all 30 poneglyphs by the end of the story, right? Okay, so I'm thinking it's a Rio poneglyph, though. I'm thinking, considering it was on Hachinosu, if it's not, like Rox might have gotten it at some point, right? Like, that probably makes the most sense. I mean, maybe Rox picked up something when he was off traveling the world, trying to conquer everything. I mean, remember, Rox wanted to be king of the world, which is a little bit interesting because Eam is the king of the world, right? Eam is the one that sits on the empty throne. So did Rox learn about Eam, like, directly? Or did Rox find a poneglyph, somehow have the ability to read it? I mean, it's possible. And then, like, oh, wait a minute. This poneglyph says that there's a person named Eam Nerona that took over the world. I want that position. So maybe that's how Rox learned about it. You know, but there's still a lot of different questions about this, right? At any rate, is that poneglyph still on Hachinosu, right? I mean, like, we didn't see it anywhere. We didn't see it with, like, Blackbeard's throne room or anything like that, but it could still definitely be on Hachinosu somewhere. And Blackbeard's ultimately the one that is there now, so he would have access to it. Also makes sense why he kidnapped Pudding, because Blackbeard needs somebody to read the poneglyph, and he was just like, Zah! All right, there's not that many people that can read poneglyphs out there. There's the people in Wano, but that's Kaido's territory, so that's not going to work. There is Robin in the Straw Hat crew. She survived Ohara. She could probably do it. I'm thinking maybe Blackbeard was like, I could pick a fight with the Straw Hats, but not yet. Gotta save that for the end of the story. Gotta save that for the epic climax of One Piece, right? All right, well, one of Big Mom's kids could probably read Poneglyphs. I'll just go capture one of them, right? Okay, then so I can see Blackbeard maybe learning about pudding, being a member. Maybe Blackbeard learned about the Third Eye tribe, and they have the ability to read, like, everything when they awaken their power. And, you know, he was like, oh, the Third Eyes, maybe it might be, like, they might all be annihilated. Like, pudding might be the only one left, or they're very reclusive. There's not many left out there in the world. The only member of the Third Eye tribe other than Pudding, and she's half Third Eye because Big Mom is a human. The only other person that we could infer that exists or did exist at some point was Pudding's father, right? Who that is, we have no idea. Is he still alive? We have no idea. But, you know, he's out there somewhere, or he's dead, and there might be some other Third Eye tribe members. There might not be, right? So, But Blackbeard, it was mentioned several times, Blackbeard loves to research, like, history, and archaeology is his, like, his hobbies, you know what I mean? Like, when Oda talks about, like, the hobbies of the warlords and the Yonko and stuff like that. So, I understand, like, Blackbeard looks stupid, right? Like, at an initial first glance. He's done things that are kind of stupid in the story, like walking right up to Magellan and thinking that was going to work, or he was going to be intimidated or something. Man, I just realized, Blackbeard really just crit failed on that intimidation roll when he was walking up to Magellan, like, you must be Magellan. Oh, shit. He's not intimidated in the slightest, right? Blackbeard might seem stupid, but he's not. He's really not. He does his research. He looks into things, okay? So that's why he wanted to capture Pudding, bring her back to Hachinosu to read the Poneglyph that's probably there, okay? And what's going on with that, okay? Because nobody on Blackbeard's crew could do that, right? And I don't think Blackbeard himself could do that. Why else would they need Pudding otherwise, right? Okay? Law was going there, and then I'm also assuming at the same time, somehow, Blackbeard learned, because this was, I think, after the Payback War. The Payback War was like a year after this. I think it was right around that time that Law became a warlord, so it's probably right around the same time period. I'm just going to assume it was after the Payback War. So Blackbeard learned that Law was going after Hachinosu, or there was an incident on Hachinosu involving this ship, the Rocky Port. So Blackbeard was like, this is my time. Or maybe Blackbeard showed up last, because that is tend to be what Blackbeard does. He waits for other people to go and make a big war or a big fight, and then he shows up at the end and messes up with everything. Like, that's kind of Blackbeard's thing. That's his MO. So what if it's as simple as, like, this? Law hijacks the Rocky Port and goes to Hachinosu, controlled by Wang. Kobe was patrolling in that general area. He was around there. Maybe they were doing maneuvers or something. He was in the area at the time. They get a distress call that the Rocky Port, which is, like I said, on paper, just a civilian vessel from this kingdom, not a smuggling vessel. I mean, it is, but it's just that I'm sure there were regular civilians that were on the ship, you know, as a cover, okay? Kobe gets a distress call. We have to go save them. And they were even like, but you can't go to Hachinosu. That's the pirate island. That's the beehive. We can't mess with that. And Kobe's like, I don't care. I need to save these civilians. So Kobe goes off, and he does his thing, and he saves a bunch of people, and that's like a really, really big deal, right? Meanwhile, Blackbeard, maybe he's also... I would imagine Blackbeard, once after the Payback War, after he officially became a Yonko, he was keeping his eye on Hachinosu. He's like, just gonna keep my eye on that, and whenever there's a weakness, a crack in Wang's armor, that's when I'm gonna take over. And so Blackbeard was kind of maybe like waiting for it, and then Rocky Port incident happens. Law's there, Kobe's there, big battle, Wang is attacking, and that's when Blackbeard was like, okay, this is the moment. All right, this is the time. All right, Lafitte, put on a pot of coffee. We won't be long. You know, and then he goes, and then Blackbeard shows up, and throughout all of the chaos, Kobe was able to save a bunch of civilians and get them the hell out of there. Maybe Kobe was the one that, like, maybe Kobe and Law teamed up and weakened Wang. Wang would have been a very old man by the time this is going down, okay? If we're going on the logic that, like, 38 years ago, maybe they were at their peak, which in One Piece seems to be somewhere around your 40s. Like, Garp was kind of at his peak in his 40s and stuff like that. Roger was at his peak in the 40s. So let's say that Wang Ji was in his 40s about 40 years ago. He'd be pushing 80. He'd be around maybe Rayleigh's age right now. So maybe he isn't isn't as strong as he used to be. Maybe he also has generic old man illness. It's taken a lot of people. You know, Whitebeard had it, Roger had it, and he wasn't even that old. But yeah, a lot of people have generic old man disease in anime. So yeah, maybe Law and Kobe, you know, had to like fight Ochoku, or maybe it was just Law versus Wang, or the Kobe versus Wang. Who knows? But Wang Ji was weakened from that. Kobe got out of there with the civilians. He's the hero. Law gets away with the 100 hearts from a bunch of different people. Maybe Law saw the Poneglyph. Maybe he didn't. I don't think he would have been able to take it with. I mean, with Law's power, it wouldn't have been impossible. But I think it is still on Hachinosu. And then the whole thing with the kingdom going on, we don't know what's up with that. You know, the whole, like, the kingdom that was making the dealings with Hachinosu. Then Blackbeard rolls up. And it's absolute bedlam. It's absolute chaos on the island. He shows up at the tail end of it. He's able to defeat Wang for good, either kill him, which probably not, or kick him off the island, and then Blackbeard assumes his position as like, I am now the new ruler of Hachinosu. Maybe Law was even trying to do that, man. Maybe Law was like, I'm gonna oust Wang, and then I'm gonna be the boss of Hachinosu. But then Blackbeard rolled up, and maybe either because maybe Law tried to fight him the first time, but I don't think that's happening, because Law already fought Blackbeard at Wiener Island now. If there was any kind of interaction before where those two had fought very closely, like a one-on-one fight before Wiener Island, I think we would have known that, right? So maybe Law, just being tactical, was like, oh, okay, plan didn't work out exactly as I assumed, and now Blackbeard's here, so we're gonna just move out of this. We're gonna cancel this operation and maybe try this again another day, okay? It didn't work out exactly as I planned. Now, Law still, you know, he's a smart guy, too. So he was the one that was maybe like, okay, I can't get my hands on this Poneglyph and I can't take over Hachinosu, but what I can do is at least steal a bunch of hearts and then maybe I can use that as leverage to become a warlord, which he did, okay? So Law managed to get something out of the deal, but maybe not what he was expecting to get, okay? Kobe didn't plan on being a hero. He's just a good guy like that, right? And then Blackbeard is the king of an island, all right? So that's a big deal. That's a big deal. But, yeah, that's essentially all we really know about Hachinosu, and there's still, about the Rocky Port incident at Hachinosu, and there's still a lot of gaps in this. What was the deal with the Poneglyph? What was the deal with the ship itself? What was the kingdom that controlled the ship? And how did Blackbeard and Kobe come to be on that island with Law? Because we only really get the explanation that Law was there because he was looking for the Poneglyph. But I can understand Blackbeard keeping an eye on that place, because maybe at some point, Blackbeard, if he is descended from rocks, or if he knows a lot about rocks, or found his book or something like that, you know, he found Rox's diary, and he's like, Dear Diary, we're about ready to go to God Valley. I'm so excited I can barely sleep. You know, something like that. And then Blackbeard's like, okay. You know, P.S. There's a Poneglyph on Hachinosu. Okay. You know, something like that. Who knows? But we'll find out, hopefully. I think we are going to learn more about it, but just we're not going to get a full flashback to it, all right? But we're going to drop information as we go. Let me know down below what you think about the Rocky Port incident from what Oda said, and how you were piecing this together in your head canon, which is all we really got right about now. Thanks for watching, everybody. And yes, last day today, November 7th, for Vampire Berry plushie. Look at him, guys. Look at him. He's just a little bat boy. Okay. Anyway, check it out. Links below. 101 signing out. Later.